Hi, and welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show and YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking and taking the time to watch this video. And I do hope that you've clicked on some of the other videos in this collection. My name is Matthew Haddock, and I'm here to hopefully give you some guides, tips and tools around leadership and management. Firstly, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show. Click the bell for the notifications and share it with your network, either through Facebook, Instagram, X, or obviously LinkedIn. I'm hoping to really grow a community of people who want to be part of this way of working regarding being better as leaders and managers. So what's this week's show about? Well, this week's show is about how to become a better leader. Now, leadership is a very well studied subject, and there is plenty of books around about leadership, some on the shelf behind me. And they all are great to have a read and dive into. But what really is leadership? Well, leadership in my mind is around being able to take the light and shine it on others. It's not around you becoming an egotistic person who has a badge and is at the top of the tree. And I think leadership, a lot of people think that way, that it's about being this great number one, this total person who knows everything about everything. Leadership, in my mind, isn't that. It's not about what university you've been to. It's not about who you know, although those connections, if we're honest, will get you through the door into interviews and sometimes get you roles that maybe you shouldn't have. But hey, that's a different subject for a different video. But yeah, leadership in its own right is a good thing. It is around growing talent. It's about empowering people around you. But how do you do it? Well, firstly, you need to know yourself if you're going to be a leader, or if you're a leader and you're developing. It's a good time to reflect on yourself. What are you really there for? What is your purpose? And also, are you comfortable in sometimes being vulnerable? Because leaders that you may think of, leaders that we think of in the past, military leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, are all this almost untouchables. They're almost that great that no one could become near them. They weren't. They were as vulnerable as me and you. They had the same issues. They had the same things that kept them awake at night. They weren't superhuman. They weren't alien creatures. We're not going down that conspiracy route either. But they were normal. They were people. They were put in positions, sometimes through things happening around them, sometimes through choice. But they were people, and they had to know their vulnerabilities. And it's good for you to know your vulnerabilities. Second point, you need to know your team. You need to be honest and open with your team so they know you and you know them. Best way to do that, obviously, is a one-to-one, but also in meetings. You're going to set agendas as leaders in meetings, and we spend a lot of time in meetings. Sometimes too much time, one would say. But if you've got genuinely good meetings, you can then grow those people to understand what their part to play in the business is. You've got to have courage as a leader. You are going to be lonely sometimes, and this is a fact. You are going to be on your own, making decisions that some people, sometimes a lot of people, are not happy about. But you've got to do it for the greater good. And you have to have that heart of a lion almost, the courage to make the calls, make the big calls, because it will come down to you. You've also got to have a comfortable in being a failure. Now that sounds strange in our society where it's all about winning and you can't lose. But failure is a natural part of learning. There's an old proverb that says that those who have never failed have never done. And that is really true. The people who would say they've never made a mistake and have never made an error have never done the task that they say they're doing. Because we all make mistakes. If we didn't make mistakes, we wouldn't have been walking today. We've all seen the little toddlers who fall over. They all have to fall to get up. If no one got back up, we'd have all been crawling around the floor. We always get back up. And it's the same in business. As a leader, you've got to know sometimes some things are going to go wrong. It's not going to be perfect. So you're going to be comfortable with the fact that it will go wrong. And you've got to make sure your team understand that failure is okay in some respects. Failure is something that you may have to have a lot of pain through, but you'll learn through and improve through. If you jump on the person every time they make a mistake, guess what happens next time they make a mistake? They hide it. They won't tell you. That's how it works. Humans will walk away. But what happens when you praise it and say, well done, thanks for letting me know, let's learn from this. Positive reinforcement. Instead of the negative reinforcement, usually positive reinforcement. That's just basic psychology. You've got to allow the team to understand what's going on and give them the information. Communications is massive when it comes to being a leader. You've got to communicate really, really well. If you don't communicate well, people will fill the gaps. We're very clever humans. We love narratives, we love stories. But what happens if there's a gap? We start to fill it. And we'll fill it with things that really don't make much sense sometimes. So as a leader, you've got to make sure that your meetings and the information and the communication is really, really sharp and allows the people not to have any of those gaps. You need to feed that team information continually. You need to make sure that they're not looking for patterns that fail. So be very much aware of that. And then it comes down to the idea of culture and purpose and values. What is the values that you live with? What are your core values? Could you name 3 of the core values that you really would live by? Can you make sure your team knows its values? And a shared values across that team, meaning that whenever you have an issue, you come back to your values. And the purpose. We don't just arrive for a paycheck anymore. Of course, a check doesn't exist anymore, but the pay still does. And of course, it gets you to the door, it gets you out of bed. But what is the real purpose of you being there? Because if people don't have purpose, they soon drift into just going through the motions. And what a waste of such an intelligent thing as a human brain, just to have it going through the motions. Leaders never stop growing. A leader will never stop trying to be more and more educated. And that could be reading some of the books that are behind me on these shelves. It could be about looking at YouTube clips like this. It could be about just talking and getting mentors to understand how they can improve. But you never, ever stop learning. Just because you went to university and you've got your degree or your master's doesn't mean you ever stop. You should always be making sure you're looking for things like, where's my weaknesses? Where's my blind spots? Can I improve those blind spots? And obviously your team. As a good leader, you're looking at what the team's weaknesses are. Is some gaps you could fill in there and help them grow through good coaching and delegation. There's lots of things to be said about leadership in a negative sense. But leadership is really a place where you can really grow your career. You can really push yourself forward. Leadership is around taking what you've got, your team and your skills, putting it together and making something better than what you've got. So let's have a quick recap of what this is around. You need to know your own way of thinking. You need to know, can you be vulnerable as a leader? You need to embrace failure as a leader. You need to know your team as individuals and as a group. How does it work? How does it click? You need to know the values that you live by, the values your team live by, and what purpose you're there for. And as a leader, you need to never stop growing. Keep growing, keep thinking. And of course, you've tuned into this cast, so that's brilliant. So you can even grow yourself today by clicking some more of the videos and having a watch and making sure you share them. But I'm also up for feedback because it is the best gift any leader can have. So if you've got any feedback on the show, please send it to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. Love to engage on new and old topics, or just reach out to me if you just want a one-to-one chat. Always happy to help. Right, well, that's it for this week. Thanks for watching and goodbye.